Okay,
Awesome.
well, today we have three inspiring entrepreneurs joining us today, and we're gonna be talking about our goals, the COVID impact, and their advice to aspiring entrepreneurs. And so let's welcome Jason McCain, Heidi Rasmussen, and Alicia McCain. Okay, so I guess we'll get started with the introductions. And so, Jason, could you tell us a little about yourself, Vari, and how it all started?
Yes, Jason McCann, co-founder and CEO of now Vari. We started with an original product called the Vera Desk about 8 years ago, and it was literally Dan, my partner, was having back pain, and so he would stand up at a cardboard box in his office, and he and I were working together at another company that he owned, and I was president of, and he would, his doctor said, well, if you feel better standing up, then you need to stand up more. So Dan started to describe what became our first product because we couldn't find a product out there, a solution for us. And so Dan literally dreamt up this item. And so I grabbed one of our industrial designers, and the three of us sat around a table for about 2.5, 3 hours. And Dan talked, and David started drawing, and the magic of a product was born on a piece of paper there. We started to build prototypes and show it around town here in Dallas and got some incredible feedback, tested it with our employees, and we were off to the races.
Yeah, that's awesome. I actually have a product of Vari myself. And so I can tell that the quality is really good. And it's actually a standing desk. And it's really helpful because I guess all of us are always just like sitting. And so like it also hurts our back. So having a standing desk is like one of the things that we really need, especially like always being at home and working through our desk. And so moving on, I guess, Heidi, we would love to have an introduction from you, hear who you are and exactly what Fresh Bennies is and how it all started.
Okay, well, I spent 27 years in corporate America with JCPenney. Maybe you've heard of it. I literally started when I was 15 years old working on the floor, and I worked my way through high school and this college. So how awesome is that? My husband then is ex-Canadian, and he knows the healthcare system. He got a health administration degree in Canada, and then he came across the border like in the 90s, and he learned about insurance and health insurance on this side. So he really knew both systems, and as the ACA was being signed in 2009, he started investigating some really cool services, and he knew Americans were going to need help with healthcare, navigating the system, savings, those kind of things. But he couldn't convince the company he was working for here to actually give him some resources to help launch it. So he kept coming to me going like, okay, you're the communications person. How do I get them to understand? And I was like, well, do you believe the numbers? And he goes, yeah. Well, do you believe that people are going to need this help? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, well, you should start a business then. And he goes, oh, no, I'm not doing that. And so that was on a Friday. And on a Monday, he was like, all right, I'm down. I'm doing it. So I became chief sugar mama officer because I was the money. And so I eventually rose to vice president at JCPenney, and I got laid off when the new CEO came in after 27 years. And so here we were 3 years into having this business that we were building. And so I get let go, and Reed's like, okay, we have no revenue and no profit. Like, I get that. After 3 years, but he's like, but still, you got to come work with me. And I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. We'll go from 2 incomes to 1 to none. I don't like it. And that's what we did. We held hands, jumped off the cliff, and launched FreshBenies, a fresh approach to benefits. And so what we do is we merge technology and healthcare to help employers and their employees control healthcare costs. We say they're dime, time, and peace of mind because it's all those things. So we've taken like 16 different types of services like telehealth, behavioral telehealth, advocacy, prescription savings, dental savings, vision savings, all those things. And we put them into, and pet telehealth, we put them into a seamless platform that helps members use it really easily. Employers give it to their employees really easily. So they're great complement as a health insurance, with health insurance, or for those who don't. And mostly we sell through health insurance brokers who work with employers to help them come up with their strategic benefit plans. So it went crazy. We were on the Inc. 5000 list 4 years in a row, the Dallas 200 2 years. PS, on the 100 list, we were like 94 or something one year. And here comes Jason and his team. And that was the year, Jason, that you were #1 on the list. So yay, that's awesome. And we've saved our clients about $80 million in healthcare costs. So that is me and FreshBenies.
That's amazing. I also love your energy and also your story is so inspiring. And so I guess moving on from there, we'll ask Alicia to introduce yourself a little bit and also talk about GXA and how it all started.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad to be on this panel today, and thank you so much for inviting me out. Jason, I have a Vera desk. I am so proud. When I was actually moving my Vera desk. I brought it from my office. We are Vera desk customers. Did not know that I am your fan, but very glad to meet you today. Love it. Yes, Heidi. So my name is Dr. Alicia Mayake. I am a UTD alumni, and I got a PhD from UT Dallas in public affairs and started an IT company. Now, how interesting is that? So that's why this particular CEO panel is so interesting, because I did not travel down a straight line. So how GXA got started is George, who's my business partner, as well as my husband, decided when we were actually flying to Las Vegas to go celebrate our 1 year wedding anniversary, because we had been married for 365 days.
Woohoo!
And we were excited. So on the way to that trip, that's how the GXA was actually birthed, on a napkin on an airline, American Airlines, and I still have the original ticket. This is when they printed out tickets back in the day. And so I think now you can board, just by using your boarding pass on your iPhone. But back then, you actually got a hard copy ticket. So we actually wrote the name GXA. It stands for George and Alicia on a napkin. My husband is the IT guru. He said, I believe I can do this on my own. I was like, great, I'm going to start a PhD. But I did tell him, yes, I will join you in this particular venture. So when we started, I was everything except IT support. So I did all things, anything behind the scenes that you could think of, from marketing to sales, to sweeping the floor, to finding office space. It was rough in the beginning. One of the guys reminded me today of how dusty my first office was. I was like, you got to start somewhere. And so we grew the business, and it's made Inc. 5,000 3 times. And our business we are a managed service provider. We provide IT support to other businesses. So we are a B2B. And what we noticed in the marketplace is a lot of small businesses and medium-sized businesses could not afford an IT department. So what we do is we actually deliver the entire IT department to their organization for one price. They pay us one monthly reoccurring revenue price, and we customize the package just for that particular client needs. And they get access to a help desk. We give them a chief technology officer. We give them a CIO. We'll give you an IT director. We'll roll it all in. So we make your small business look big. So when you have IT needs, you just press on a button. We even have a logo that we put on your computer. You press the button and we are at your disposal when it comes to technology support. The model has worked for us and we love our business model. It's still growing. We are very excited about our particular business model, because this model, one-stop shop, we will provide all your IT needs by just paying us. We'll take care of you. It's working for us.
That's awesome. And so I guess we're all also curious to know, actually starting with Heidi, can you walk us through some important takeaways you've had from the retail industry? I think it's been 27 years, and to corporate life as well as being an entrepreneur right now.
Oh, wow. Yes. So the first thing I would say that we've learned through this whole fun process is preparing. And so I'm going to say prepare, learn, and change. So prepare, like when Reed and I were married, we knew that we probably at some point in the future wanted to do something together, work-wise or business-wise. So we lived really well below our means for many years. So we were in a position to really bootstrap our business. A lot of people are forced to quit after, really early, before they learn all the necessary lessons that you have to learn when you're building a business, right? So I just learned it's like 20% of small businesses fail within the first year and 50% within 5 years. Yikes. Well, you guys know those numbers because you're in the right school there. But, and you guys know it takes years of planting seeds before the harvest comes. And so like for us, we were 3 years in and Reed's like, I could have sold more just standing on the corner than what I have sold so far. But you're figuring out who's your client, right? Who's your real client? What's your real product? What's your real message? And that just takes time. So most people don't have the stamina or the finances to write that out. So that's like the first thing is prepare and then learn. And I'll bring in my JCPenney experience here. Like I knew how to do branding and marketing at JCPenney. I did not know what that meant to market a small business. It's a totally different thing. I can move paperwork around a building, but that's very different than doing your own gig. So social media, a website, SEO, content marketing, technology, videos, data security, and then like all those other things that you're like at Penny's, I'd be like, where's the legal department? And now I'm like, oh, I am the legal department. So that kind of stuff. And so you really have to be a student constantly anymore because things are changing so fast. So podcasts, books, articles. And then I joined growth groups. I'm like Vistage, 10,000 Small Businesses, Bomba, where I met Alicia, and EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. And so we would not be where we are today if we weren't just in constant learning mode. And there's a need for constant learning because there's constant change. And I think for us, it's just, we make pretty major changes every year. And in today's world, we just have to have that mindset that change is okay. And some people are very open to change and some people are like open and they want to strangle it kind of open. And we don't want that. So for us, just creating a culture in our entire organization for leaders who love change, people who are fine with change, who aren't just like freaked out every time because it's just constant. And for us, having very transparent communication and things like that, so that we're always telling people where we're going, why we're doing it, so that they always feel like they're being brought along. And so they are more apt to change and have a better headset around it. So those are the things I would say.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess I'll also ask you, Jason, what are some key takeaways you don't mind sharing with us when you've been building Vari into actually where it is today?
Yeah, I think, early on, I was talking about you've got to, and somebody had mentioned this to me, this is not my idea, but I totally agree with it. You've got to find a small group of people that love your idea so that ripple effect can turn into a lot of people that might like your idea. If you start showing your product or your service offering to a group and they don't love it, they don't want to buy it, they don't ask how much it costs, well, there's probably not an interest level there. So you start focusing on the wrong things. We took that early prototype out and we didn't know anything about office furniture. And I said, well, who knows somebody that has a lot of employees? And somebody that knew the president of Verizon down the street in Irving from us who could get us a meeting. And I walked in there like literally with a prototype, a Wall Street Journal article that said sitting is the new smoking. And I had prepped the night before and said, I think that we can help you transform your workspace by creating a workspace that's happier, healthier, more productive. And it just like came to me while I was preparing for this conversation. And we walk into the meeting and the head of Verizon goes, I have no idea what you're talking about. Sitting is the new smoking. What is this thing on my desk? And we're like, oh, this is great. He said, well, hold on a minute. Let me get my ergonomist. And I didn't know what an ergonomist was at the time. And he brought in his head of people, his head of HR, and both of them came in and gave us feedback. This is a trend. We do have people, whether it's obesity or back pain issues, and the ergonomist who helps to study posture and the way that people work in workspaces gave us direct feedback on the product. So we took that idea and we got another meeting with the Container Store down the street because they're down the street. Again, just connecting and learning, as Heidi was talking about. So we were able to show the product, get feedback, and learn. But again, then suddenly people started to ask, well, how much are they? We want to buy some. And that's when we knew that people were starting to love it. And once you get people to love it, then you start to get more and more people to like it as the word of mouth spreads and you start to get people to interact with it. But I think the first thing you got to do is really find something that other people love, not just you.
Yeah, I guess that's really good advice to find what things other people like as well, not just what you believe is the best. And so I guess we'll move on to understanding what Alicia's key takeaways and key lessons have been within the IT industry?
Well, within the IT industry, the key lesson and takeaway that I've had from the time that we started until now, because we've been doing this for 16 years, is the technology is ever changing. There is no set one place. When we started this, there was no such thing as an iPhone. It didn't even exist. Blackberries were just now hitting the market. And so that lets you know how far technology has come. And then also what's really big right now is cybersecurity. That was not even a big deal 10 years ago. So we have had to restructure our model to keep our clients secure from hackers. So that is a totally different model that we had when we actually first started. Technology is really one of the top nation's driving tools that is keeping the nation open today. Like, we're on this call because of technology right now. You're running Office 365 and Teams. And if it wasn't for tools like this, our nation would be in great trouble right now. So that's one of the key takeaways that I've learned over the years. Technology is never going to stay the same.
Yeah, for sure. Always like keeping up to date and being up with not trends necessarily, but just like knowing what's going on in the world, especially how technology has changed and helping us right now talk with one another despite being in great distances. And so I guess we'll move on to one of the last set of questions, and that is, we have three different industries here, which is retail, healthcare, and IT. And I guess we're all curious to know, how exactly has COVID impacted your business? And so I guess we can start with Alicia again. You can start off.
So for us, because COVID has, I will say for us, it has been a blessing in disguise because it has not impacted our business. We are still rocking and rolling because technology is an essential frontline worker right now. So we are actually hiring. Initially, it impacted us. We lost 15% of our revenue. We quickly regained that back once people started to realize, oh my gosh, we don't have the infrastructure to basically support all of these remote workers. So all of a sudden, everyone started calling us and started saying, okay, we have to, now build out a new infrastructure. So my projects team is so busy right now. You have to get in line to get a project completed with GXA because of the fact that we are just that busy. I just hired 4 people last week. So that lets you know how busy we are right now. We are rocking and rolling, moving right along. And so COVID has not impeded or impacted my business. We're out there. We are basically delivering the service, and we are keeping a lot of businesses behind the scenes up and running. We have 2,500 computer users that we're supporting every day. So that lets you know we are moving.
That's crazy how like COVID has actually helped your business. And so like, I guess that being said, like, since technology is helping all of us and how you being in the IT industry, that's just amazing how you've been hiring so much, especially for last week. And so I guess we'll move on into understanding, I guess, Jason, how has COVID impacted Vari? And so, yeah.
Yeah, so we entered 2020 very optimistic. I think we had a very good 2019. Heidi was razzing me earlier about we've been blessed to grow really fast, and so we've gone from no employees to 350. We have 9 distribution centers globally with 3 million users of our product plus worldwide. So it's been an incredible growth trajectory. So we also recognized as people walked into our building, Vari Desk, the brand, didn't work anymore. So we had dropped the word desk. We had invested millions of dollars with the same company that helped Federal Express go to FedEx. Many of you don't even remember Federal Express on this call. So we went through the rebrand to Vari. We started a multi-million-dollar TV campaign, and we said, we're going to start transforming workspaces that elevate people and think about the transformation of culture through workspace design. So that all kicked off in January, February, March, and then bam, COVID hits, and people aren't coming into the office. So suddenly, my teams went home. Although we were considered an essential business, we did stay operational. We were able to ship the 3PLs, and our e-commerce business spiked. And so just what Dr. McKay was saying, as the revenue started to spike on the e-commerce, will put a whole bunch of pressure on the system. So we started shipping out more and more orders because everybody's been sitting on the kitchen table now for a couple weeks or a month, or they're sitting on a sofa and they're like, I need my desk. I need the same tools and technology and access to that so that I can remain productive. And so they started to lean on all the technology companies, for us, furniture. So our e-commerce business spiked while everybody was out of the office. So I would say about 90% of my workers, my team members were at home. We're surveying them, sending them desks to their houses. I was I was like, well, why don't we redesign our headquarters while everybody's out to get ready to come back? So I reached out to our teams in Asia and said, they were about 10 to 12 weeks ahead of us. What are the things you're seeing? Temperature checks, plexiglass, masks are being worn all the time, all of the guidelines pre-CDC. So I bought the temperature scanner that's used at the Taipei 101, which is the tallest building in Taiwan, that does thousands of temperature checks. So I bought one of those, 15 grand, put it at the front. We were doing some manual checks. I added these plexiglass shields for the space. We did distance space design to the headquarters. I added more of our quick flex walls. And then we started welcoming our teams back. So by June 1st, we were 100% back in the workspace. And then we reached out to our customers and said, for those of you that are trying to figure it out, let us help you. And when the CDC finally came out with guidelines, we were actually ahead of everything they said. And so now it's allowed us to get ahead of it. And now as people are trying to think about what does the workspace of the future look like? Well, we argue it's flexibility, and that's how we build all of our spaces. So the walls behind me move and the spaces move. And so a lot of clients were actually doing two designs for what could I get back, and I may need some huddles or touchdown space for, just because we're starting to all miss out on the ideas of what the workspace is for, which is collaboration, communication, and culture. And so now we're designing really two spaces. What could it look like today? And then maybe in a year or 2 years or 6 months from now, as the vaccines roll out and needs change, could I change my space again? And so it's elevated us into the space as a service model, and it's allowed us to continue to push. So the Vari brand is there. I've now got sales team members in about 10 cities across the country, and we're pushing ahead. The last thing I would say is we went into over-communicate mode. And so as you think about what happens is everybody, I recognize I was up at 2 a.m. under the stress and pressure of it. So I realized my team was probably having much more anxiety than I was. And so we got together, I started daily emails to my team. I started weekly Zoom calls, or MS Teams we did switch to, and started to have the larger company meetings to over-communicate. And then we got together under one rallying cry, and I said, we're going to keep rowing until the wind catches our sails. And that became the single moment to say, we're all in this together. We're all going to row and power through the storm. We're going to survive it. And we're also ultimately going to build a stronger organization and thrive. And so those are some of the things that we've done, and we're continuing to share those via meetings like this. We do virtual tours now, or people come in with masks on, and we do tours at our Verispace buildings. But it's just allowed us to dream about what's possible, leveraging technology, the space, and flexibility. And I think that's all going to be positive things for our business long term.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I've actually visited your office workspace 2 or 3 times, and I've obviously seen how different it is from other workspaces and how flexible it is, and also just like the design and the setup. It's very inviting, but it's very modern. And so I just love Vari for the way it's set up, especially their office in Coppell. And so I guess lastly, Heidi, could you tell us how COVID has impacted FreshBenies?
Yeah, so for us, our revenue has stayed real steady, and for us, our new business slowed a bit. Just because most employers are like, okay, our employees are going through so many changes right now. We are making no benefit changes, because benefit changes really stress people out can stress people out. So we took that time and started thinking, well, what do we need to do in advance to advance our business and come out of this better? So we really looked at our product, we looked at our marketing and messaging, and to what Jason was saying, really kind of looked at how are we going to handle our team through this, because there's a lot of unknowns and all that. So with our product, we're really talking to our clients a lot more, really watching the market. We were able to negotiate with some of our vendors to get some really good pricing, some really sharp pricing, and to design more packages that have more flexibility, so that there's certain employers who already have some of our services. So could we give like 3 options or 4 options so that they could choose from a more variety? So we did that. And then I think we all know it's a little harder to get clients during all of this that's going on, because there's no face-to-face and things like that. So it can be harder. So we added products that we could sell to our current clients. So like I said earlier, pet telehealth we rolled out so that you can call a veterinarian 24/7 and get advice about why is Fido pooping in the corner. I don't know, whatever it is you want to ask them about, but so those kind of things. And then we made a lot of tech updates so that we could really improve our end member experience. So we know that if the employees really love the experience and they're using our services, that the employers hear about it and they're happy to keep paying for it. And then their insurance broker is happy to hear those stories too. And so insurance brokers sell more FreshBenies when they hear great things. So that was one thing on product. On marketing, like most of our leads came through in-person events like trade shows and stuff. And so we're like, all right, well, we're going to move to virtual with excellence, like do everything we can to make virtual work. But then we knew we needed to work our warm relationships too. So we started asking for introductions from our current clients. That was good. And then we saw how important video became. So we started a video series called Brokers in Cars Getting Coffee, which is amazing. So if you haven't liked our LinkedIn page, definitely go do it, or Facebook. Like, we have a lot of fun on all of our social media. So Brokers in Cars Getting Coffee, where we interview different brokers from across the country and hear what's going on with you. How are you dealing with this? So it's gotten a lot of traction and some attention in the broker market. But for marketing, it was really just trying new things and being creative, not getting overwhelmed, and then figuring out what works, like what are the KPIs and the data around showing us what works, and then getting really good at those things. And then lastly, a same thing with people, like work from home is a huge shift for a lot of people. We've always been a remote workforce. That's how we started FreshBenies. So it's pretty normal for us. So we've learned a lot over the years. One of them is that we interview very differently because we're looking for people with strong work ethics and who are very trustworthy, since we're not babysitting them. We're not in the office with them all of the time. So we really need really good work ethic people. So, and we also can source from anywhere now. That's awesome. We've had employees in India and all over the US. So that's been great. And then, the last thing I would say is just for us, like people had kids at home, they were schooling at home, they're concerned about getting sick, we had infecting others, we had the whole political, racial injustice, like all kind of craziness going on in 2020. So we said, what are some things we can do to make our people feel cared for and feel special? And so we made a big deal of new homes, marriages, birthdays. We do a strategy retreat, and we had huge boxes of goodies delivered because it went virtual. And so Slack lunches, like all this, not sack lunches, but Slack lunches, all kinds of fun stuff that we're trying to do with our team to make them feel cared for and heard. So that's us.
I like that, especially like having those snack packages and also like the pet care, because I have a pet myself, so having those benefits for my pet. I guess we'll move on to our last question today, and that is obviously, what is some advice do you have to aspiring entrepreneurs or college students coming out of college who want to start their own business? And Alicia, you can actually start us off.
The advice that I have is resiliency, persistence, and being tenacious. If you have those three ingredients, go for it, jump off the cliff and jump into the pool of entrepreneurship. But definitely I will say that finishing college is not going to be enough in order to start a business.
Mm-hmm.
I went all the way with my education, and I still had to go get more to keep my innovation going, my knowledge and skills going, to really be able to meet the market demand. Being an entrepreneur, you have to almost be, especially when you start from the beginning, a jack of all trades, a master of none. And so definitely, if you have some key ingredients, but do not go into entrepreneurship unless you are persistent, tenacious, and you cannot walk into this with fear. You have to walk into this and just go. Don't overthink it, because if you overthink it and you think the temperature outside has to be warm and springy, and the grass has to be green, and the leaves and the trees have to be full and bright, that is going to be not the case.
I
lot,
love that.
yeah, a lot of market analysis and all that good stuff, but that's more technical. But there are just some key things inside of you that you must possess.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then also, Heidi, could you tell us what some advice you have to people coming out of college and aspiring entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think I covered most of them earlier. The whole prep thing, like really just think through it and prepare and have a strategy and don't just go at it with, oh, I'm going to make this work. Like have a plan at least. And then what Alicia said is it really you have to continue learning. Like it never stops and be willing to change and pivot. Because a lot of times you get married to something where you're like, this is how I'm going to do it. But then your customer's saying, yeah, I don't like it that way. Right. So then you have to kind of figure all that out. But then the last thing I would say is get mentors and people in your world that you can just ask for help. Like, how do I handle this situation? And I remember in the beginning, we were doing all of our accounting on Excel spreadsheets because that's what you do in the beginning, right? And then one of our mentors was like, yeah, it's probably time for you to get off the spreadsheets. And so we're like, I'm like, I don't even know, like, how do I do that? We had a whole accounting department at JCPenney, so I have no idea what to do. So having people and being in growth groups with people like Alicia, who may have gone before you and is able to speak into to you and help you move forward. It'll get you there a lot faster if you have those people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've also heard from a lot of people having those mentors and that support group around you is one of the important keys to becoming a successful entrepreneur. And I guess, Jason, you can take it away with the last advice you have to aspiring entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think, the number one word I always say is grit. And so I think that piggybacks with what the team is saying here. I think it is an incredibly challenging, but such a rewarding thing to do. I think it's also perfectly fine to be an entrepreneur and be entrepreneurial inside of another company, even inside of a JCPenney or a large organization while you're just getting out there. Entrepreneurs, it's kind of the mindset of how you think and problem solve. So if you think about entering any organization, because you got to learn and grow and feed yourself and your family as you're working, trying to figure these things out, or maybe you're working on your side hustle for your big idea, but you're always bringing solutions, always trying to help that company grow. That's the testing ground for you and your ideas and your entrepreneurial things. I think as you start to hit the battlefield, and I would say I've probably done 7 or 8 businesses since high school all the way through to today. I'm 51 now, so this may be number 10 or whatever. But they're all a journey, and you learn something from each of them. And your goal is to create something. But I think what I always now realize, if you look for pain points that are out there, or areas where you can simplify. So I love Alicia's button, right? You're simplifying the outsourcing of all the technology pain, right? Or you're looking at FreshBenies and going, oh, I just want all my employees to be happy and not think about it, and their pets to be covered. Like you're seeing a problem out there, a pain point. And if that pain point matches with a passion that you have, something that you're intrigued by, something that you're curious about, that collision point can be something really, really powerful. If you see pain points out there, I studied businesses that I thought I used to be in the restaurant and nightclub industry. And I was okay at it, not great at it, but I didn't realize that was not my passion or calling. So I ultimately ended up exiting that business and selling it. But it's kind of like, oh, I saw something I was kind of liked, and I saw something there I could pretty good at, but it wasn't like the big thing. With here, this product was not my idea, but we recognized Dan had a back pain issue, and we solved it. And then as we learned about it, we're like, well, furniture is sold like the automobile industry through a dealer network all across the country. I can do what Tesla's doing and sell furniture direct. Okay, so that started to work for us. And then we ultimately realized, well, we can do VeraSpace and buy buildings and lease them out fully furnished, because that's what companies are looking for. They want to plug into an ecosystem. Can you provide and help them with the culture and the hospitality amenities? And so my undergrad was in hospitality management at the University of Houston. I thought I wanted to be a hotel operator or something, or sit on a beach and do my chair and umbrella company that I had for a while. But now to connect the dots backwards, as Steve Jobs said in that Stanford speech, it's like I can see all the different things that I've done, all the businesses that have failed, or the things I've learned. have allowed me to get to this point. The thing about being very frugal with your money is a very important lesson. I think the faster you can get your business profitable, the faster you can accelerate it later. So, Mark Cuban always says you need to bartend at night and figure out how to keep your cash flow up so you get your business profitable. That's exactly the right mindset to have. And so I think the moment that we recognize that Vera Desk could be a business, like it could sell, like the day we sold 3, we had $1,000 in orders and we were like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. And then one day we sold $1 million worth in a day. A couple of years later, $1 million in a day. So to think about that and to watch FedEx trucks just loaded up with hundreds and hundreds of units, like it took that first one and getting that one unit profitable and listening to that customer and incubating that and making sure that everybody really, really liked it. And then investing a little bit in the technology, a little bit in the e-commerce website. Our first e-commerce website was $99. It's a 3D cart website. We use QuickBooks for our accounting. Now I'm doing a multi-million-dollar SAP for S4 HANA implementation. I've got a Salesforce CRM with a B2C, B2B for my tech fans out there. But those are multi-million-dollar investments in the infrastructure now to help us scale to build bigger. But I didn't get to do that until we sold 1 desk and it was profitable, and then 2, and then our fans started to help us build that word of mouth. So I think all of those things you've got to start. As soon as your heart's not in it or your passion, you may not be chasing the right dream as you're thinking about those things, because it's going to be really, really hard. And it's a little lonely when you're at the top. And the top doesn't mean you've made it. The top just means you're the lead person that's responsible for all the families that you're employing here, the businesses that you're taking care of. And so you've got to be willing to make the personal sacrifices, because you're the last one to get paid. You're the first one to open the door and the last one to lock the door. And if you're not willing to get beat up and get back on the horse and keep marching down the field, then this is probably not for you. But if you're sitting on here trying to listen to it, I go back to when I was in University of Houston, and there was a 7 o'clock at night, and Mattress Mac, who owned Gallery Furniture, came to a talk. And I'll never forget when he stood on that stage and he's like, I got one store. I'm going to focus on my customers. I'm going to sell the most furniture per square feet. And I'm going to figure this thing out, and really will save you money. And he was down to $500, and he came up with that crazy tagline. I still think about him standing on that stage with me at 20 years old, watching him. And I'm going, all right, someday I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to figure this out. And the first ones didn't work. They worked okay. Some failed miserably. I went bust in the .com days in the 1999, 2000. But you learn from each flare out, and you just keep going, and you find another pain point out there that you can simplify and monetize that aligns with your passion and your values. And then you continue to surround yourself with people that have common values and goals, and you keep marching onward. And that's how I would describe it. Keep moving forward.
I like that. It's actually like a little TED talk to me, because I do want to become an entrepreneur myself in the food and the fashion industries. And so I guess I've always had this question of like, I have these ideas, I have these passions, and I want to solve some problems, but it's like, what's that first step? So hearing these different ideas of what it takes to be an entrepreneur is really inspiring. It's kind of like, it's making me think a little bit, which I'm really thankful for. And I guess now we will open the floor for questions. And I don't know if you guys can see the chat box, but if not, I can read the questions to you. And so I do have some other questions lined up while we wait for the chat box to get filled up with questions. And so I guess I'll ask my first question, and that is, what has been your most rewarding moment as an entrepreneur or a mentor so far? And I guess, Heidi, you can start with you.
Most rewarding moment as an entrepreneur or a mentor. I think just our team, and like having a FreshBenies family and hearing them say it that way. Not us pushing we're a family, but having them actually say that. And when people either choose to leave because they've got a new opportunity or something different, like kind of having them cry on the way out, like, I don't want to go kind of thing. Like, That's huge. And when people buy houses and cars and you're like, I mean, it makes you really nervous because you're like, oh God, their whole life is depending on this business not failing. And so that makes you a little nervous, but you're super proud too that you're able to build something that actually lets somebody have a living. That's huge.
Yeah. I guess, Alicia, you can take it off from there also.
It's very similar to what Heidi's story is. When people start building houses and they bought their first home, and they start having babies and new families, that is very exciting. But one of the proudest moments I have is being able to send employees to third world countries. We did this recently to Nigeria to build computer labs. So, and having all of our customers rally around this one, initiative that we wanted to make a difference in a third world country. So we were brave enough to believe that we could send all these refurbished computers to Nigeria, and we collected over 100 computers and laptops and desktops from our clients and shipped them, and it had to go by boat. Not by plane. It took 3 months to get to Nigeria. And then I sent my team members to actually install the computers in a transformational center to train people how to become an entrepreneur. So that has been one of my proudest moments. That's why we started GXA. And to see that come around full circle has really, really touched my heart.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I guess, Jason, you can take it away with your proudest moment as an entrepreneur or mentor.
Yeah, I think the coolest thing is always building an amazing team and seeing them continue to elevate. And I agree with the house and babies and graduations, and even as they go through life and lose loved ones, you're here and everybody can lean in together and get through those things. A cool thing that I wasn't able to do it with our other businesses is we're able to take our furniture and donate it to nonprofit organizations and then tie in our volunteer time off program to go and build the furniture and assemble it. And so to date, we've donated over $5 million worth of furniture to nonprofit organizations. And it's been an incredibly rewarding thing. And this idea came probably 5 years ago. I would see a sign-up sheet on our controller's office, and it said, we're going to deliver Meals on Wheels. Does anybody want to volunteer? And I would just walk around the management by walking around old school. I don't know if they still teach that, but as I would just walk around the building to, talk to the team and see what's going on, I would see that sign-up sheet. And then I found out what we were doing, and they were just all out volunteering when they could. And it was like, okay. And so basically we turned that into a program. And so for us now, your first year, you get a paid day off to go volunteer. And after year 5, you've got 5 days. So in theory, each day we add a year every day. So this year we'll have 5,600 hours of volunteer time off that's paid for by us for my teams now to go out and serve the community. And so that's not just Dallas, it's now teams across the country. And so they can choose a group, they can go as a team, they can make it an event. The other thing is they can bring us ideas on where we could donate furniture to nonprofit organizations and make an impact. So we were able to do the Make-A-Wish Foundation headquarters here in Dallas. They had a $500,000 furniture budget. We were able to do it because we don't charge as much as other companies for $250,000 worth of furniture. Then my team, along with some of their volunteers, went and assembled it and built it for free because our stuff's so easy to build. So you think about that, we were able to turn that donation into 50 wishes that they didn't have to spend that money on, that became 50 wishes for them to put into their program for Make-A-Wish. And so you don't realize the impact you can have, whether you're donating to the computer technology to another company, whether your teams are out there volunteering. Suddenly I'd never met Dr. Cheryl Action Jackson at Minnie's Food Pantry until yeah, she's awesome. So she came in here, and Vincent, one of my employees, had volunteered with her, and she came in and told us what she did. And our team, we did $40,000 worth of furniture to her. St. Marshall turns around and donates, because we did some work for the Mavs, a whole conference room to her. So we assembled it in the same conference room that we did for the Mavs. And I'm like, you don't realize the impact you have. And then you go down and see the impact they're having in the community. So our donation allowed them to take any money they would have spent on furniture and put it in to their food program in that area. And so all of that just creates an incredible thing. And so I would say if you can connect those things and they align with your values of the organization that you're building, if you can find those opportunities to give back, it's very challenging. But if you can do it in a way that's a part of the DNA of the company that you're building, I think the impact will really could live beyond your lifetime.
Yeah, and so we have one question in the chat box from Harshini, and so it's quite long, so I'll start reading it. Okay, for students, founders who are building startups, oftentimes a question I've come across is this a good time to start this? Is this the correct market? And I've also had these ideas that are, it's like I've also seen ideas not to hop because of the lack of product market fit. So when you guys were building out all of your businesses, what were some key questions you asked with your team that helped you understand a product market fit and also where students can get their hands on to find rich insights on marketing insights? And so whoever wants to go first can take a shot at that.
One thing we did is we came up with what we thought was going to be a great idea, and we just started putting it in front of people. I think a lot of what Jason was saying is just like, I think it is, and based on what I know, but, being a buyer at JCPenney, what I like is not what, most of America likes. So you really do have to pull it together and then get out there and put it in front of a bunch of people to get a feel for what would you change. I remember, this is so funny, we have a spokes character, her name's Bonnie, and she's got dark hair and blue eyes, and she's really cute, and she's a little cartoon. And when I first put it out there, I was like, women are the main customer for our product because they're the ones that deal with healthcare and everything. So when I first put it out there, I had this like blonde bombshell kind of woman, like busty spokes character. And I remember one of the moms, she's like, yeah, I don't see her at the grocery store on Tuesday afternoon. And I was like, okay, good point. So you really have to get that feedback on pricing. And sometimes, buyers are liars. Sometimes like people will tell you one thing. So really checking that out and asking a lot of different people, but pricing on your messaging, does this hit home? Does that hit home? And just getting a ton of feedback on the type of product, like everything you can possibly do. But in the end, like everybody told us not to name our company FreshBenies. And in the end, I was like, we're doing it. My gut says it's the right thing. And today, nobody forgets it when they hear it and they understand that it's benefits. They're like, oh, they never forget it. So I think a lot of it is research and a lot of it ends up being gut. And for marketing intel, I suggest doing a capstone project at UTD. There you go.
Jason or Alicia, do you have any take on this or anything you'd like to say about that question?
Yeah, I think I would agree with all of that. As you're on a shoestring budget, so you're trying to get feedback. The key is you don't want to show it. If I show something to my mom, she always loves it because I built it. And so you have to really get outside whatever your box is and get in front of real people. I remember when I was working, we did those inflatables years ago for Christmas and Halloween for Gemmy Industries that I was president of. And so I took the original box with our logo on it, and I just went to a Walmart store and was showing it to people to see if they got it. Did they communicate with them? And I'm standing at a Walmart store because that's our customer. And I'm talking not to the buyer, but I'm talking to real users that actually buy the product. So you got to get through the buyer first. And so just understanding those little nuances there and getting a read and a feedback, the market's going to tell you. If nobody wants to buy it, I mean, you can keep banging your head against the wall, but if you start to listen to your fan base, they will actually take you on the journey. So I remember we were standing there and we had our two products and we showed them, it was called the single and the dual. And we had the same issue. When I showed it, they were like, well, dual sounds like a gunfight from Texas. And we're like, oh, it does. That's a horrible name. Single is a weird word anyway. It's like Match.com. So why don't we call it the Pro? And then we did one with a keyboard lift. And oh, we'll call it the Pro Plus. This is before Steve Jobs and the iPhone. So he said, oh, we'll have a Pro and a Pro Plus. And the Pro was just inspired by Microsoft, thinking, oh, they got, Microsoft Professional. And Pro that's a good business word. And we just started to show it to people and try it. And so the beauty is you can test and learn and reiterate the power of whether it's Google or a cheap e-commerce website, or leveraging third-party technology. You can test and learn. You can use QuickBooks. You can use Excel. You can walk around and show people your idea and your product and really find out if you've got that. To me is the fastest way to learn. If you spend too much time in the lab thinking about it and never hit the battlefield, you're not going to really know. So you got to go out there and try and fail and keep going.
Mm-hmm. Alicia, do you have, would you like to make a comment or that, or should we go on to the next question?
Yeah, I want to make a comment because I'm in a service-based industry. I deliver a service. Product is not our primary focus. We do sell product, but usually we're the middleman. So we sell Dell, and then we deliver Dell to our clients. However, when you're dealing with a service, it's a little bit different. It's almost like an upside down model from basically a product. You can actually do test product and put it in the market. But with a service, you really have to, from our perspective, we had to follow our gut, knowing and hearing what was in the community, what were businesses saying, what were the business needs. And we could have paid for our market analysis, but we were broke. So we didn't have that option. And I was not a UTD alumni at the time, so the capstone project wasn't an option either. And so therefore, we had to put ourselves as the test product, meaning that we got our first client and we delivered the service ourselves. So we were the brainchild behind delivering the product. And then we got so good that someone said, I will pay you to deliver your service and you find someone else to do it and you manage them. So our entrepreneurship journey was accidental, meaning that it wasn't purposeful that I owned a building, that we had multiple employees. That wasn't on purpose. It was the demand for the service. And people kept asking us over and over again, you're so good at delivering the service. Why don't I just turn this over to you? And we said, okay, great. So I wanted to make that distinction. Service and product is a little bit different. So if you're good at mowing the lawns and you're really good and people start asking you, can you mow my friend's lawn? Then you may be onto something.
Yeah. And I guess we'll have time for just one more question. And that is, do you guys have any books or podcasts that have made a significant impact on your life, or I guess a role model or a certain inspiration you've had right now or when you were trying to become an entrepreneur? And anyone can take their first shot at that.
So I would say for me, it was Jack Welch. And he has a book called Entrepreneurship, I believe that's the name of it. But that book really gave me insight in really learning how to hire people, really understanding what I'm looking for inside of the culture, inside of an organization. And it's a very old book. It's not a recent book. It's been on the market a long time. And then the next smallest book is How to Influence Others, How to Win Friends. I believe that's the name of it. I can't remember the exact name, but basically an influence book, how to actually influence people. My podcast, everybody probably knows this guy, Tony Robbins podcast. Tony Robbins is a beast. And if you can digest what he's telling you, that is another podcast that I would highly recommend.
I like that. Jason or Heidi, do you have any inspirations or role models or podcasts and books that you'd like to share?
For me, The Slight Edge is an amazing book. It just talks about having great habits and doing them over and over and over and sticking with it. So it's a lot of what you guys have been talking about. And then the other one is The Magic of Thinking Big. So it's just about getting out of your normal thought processes and really growing. And then we read, just as one thing that we do is we listen to books while we're getting ready in the morning, because otherwise you're just doing your hair and just bored out of your mind, right? So might as well shove stuff in there that's going to help you. So we probably get through 20 to 30 books a year. Right now we're reading The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek, which is awesome if you're considering starting a business. It's a great book. So about how you look at this as an infinite game and not a finite game, and what your vision really should be. So it's a great one.
Yeah, that's definitely on my short list. Anything Simon Sinek has wrote. Tony Robbins also early in the day. My God, all of his books were like true inspiration as you think about books. I think some of the it sort of depends on which phase you're in. And so the E-Myth is a good just sort of test barometer of the foundational things you might or might not need as you're thinking about starting a business. 0 to 1 is another good one of just really, are you creating something incredible? As you think about scaling a business, another book is called Blitz Scaling, and it's a very big way to think about if you're out there raising a bunch of capital and you want to create the first eBay or the first Amazon or the first Etsy. It's a very aggressive, taught at Stanford. It's a crazy model, but it'll challenge you if you're really trying to build something beyond that $10 million mark and you're trying to march to $1 billion unicorn business. It's a pretty edgy read. I did not know Patrick Lencioni before I met my president now, Jeff Lamb. And so I've had the pleasure of reading all of Patrick Lencioni's books and everything on leadership, being hungry, humble, and smart. How do you scale a team? Death by meeting. I mean, he's got some incredible insight as you go to the nuances of leading your business. And I do think the comment about lifelong learning and reading is very important. So, and you need it as a leader and CEO. And so whether you lean on the historical books, and so I do try to tap into the biographies just to kind of think about what a great leader, what was George Washington thinking, or Abraham Lincoln, like what were they thinking, the stress that they were going through. The shortcuts, and I know you guys don't do Cliff Notes anymore, but is the Blinkist app where you can quickly get through it. Like if I need a refresher on Dale Carnegie or something, I don't mind even putting Blinkist on and going back to these great books I've read on the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People or How to Win Friends. I love those books and they've all touched me in a different way. And Blinkist is another way. It's like a 15-minute, audio summary of a book. Where you're like, oh, I just want a refresher on Good to Great, or I just want a refresher on something like that. That's another way to get in just kind of while you're walking and you just want a light touch on it. Because I think for all of us, we're looking for a place to unplug or get a creative spark or learn something. The book that I'm diving into right now, we did it as a book club. My CFO launched it. We do about 8 book clubs a year here. And so it's The Obstacle is the Way, and it's on Stoicism. And so there's daily reads and all that. And it's really helped me at this phase of my life and where I'm at and on this journey. But it's a pretty powerful book. I've tried to get my teenagers to read. And so I can't, that would be the one. It's Ryan Holiday. But it's probably a very powerful sort of life book on 2,000-year-old principles that would really help mindset as you're thinking about powering through the amount of storms you guys are going to hit as you hopefully create the next generation of companies that'll be the lifeblood of our economy. We're counting on you.
Yes, we are.
JT, can you do a rewind? I need a book list because I was
We've got this recorded, but yeah, I'll send you a list. I'll send you a photo. I give them away too on people at tours. I'm like,
awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I'll also have to check them out in the recording. And so I guess that wraps up the time we have today. And it's been an honor to talk to all of you guys and learn how all of your businesses have started and how it's grown. And also being an inspiring entrepreneur myself, it's been really inspirational to hear you guys and listen to how you guys have grown and where you guys are at right now. And so I just want to thank you guys for your time today and thank you for your honest advice and thoughts. And yes, thank you so much.
Thank you guys. It was
Our pleasure.
awesome.
So fun. Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you.
Appreciate
This
it.
is great. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.